welcome back. I'm Vanessa Nova.
And I'm Vila Loukas. Welcome to the Cosmic Conduit podcast. So we are so excited for another episode today. Vanessa, we have such an amazing topic. Okay, so I just have to say from the get-go, I'm super excited about this one. And we're going to be talking about balance, really, the balance from this axis that connects the energy of Cancer. So we've got Cancer right here on the wheel, and then its counterpoint energy, which is Capricorn on the other side, which is over here. And so in this axis, there is this whole dynamic dance that's going on. And really what it comes down to is balance. So much here, Vanessa.
Yeah, that's so much to unpack here. So in our last episode, we talked about the Cancer energy, the Cancer archetype. And so let's recap just a little bit, because Cancer is a crab.
Before we dive in there, what I would love to just take a minute to do is tease out just a little bit more about why this work is so powerful and like why I'm so excited about this today. Because, so, we said it over and over again, the point of what we're doing here is working with archetypal magic. And so what that means is, so the energy and what we understand about the sign of Cancer and the archetypes that come to us through the zodiacal sign of Cancer and all that it brings with it. And then on the other side, we've got everything that comes through Capricorn. And what happens with those energy blueprints is they're like these little building blocks. And when we nail that blueprint, when we nail the correct expression or the way to really work with whatever that fundamental, it's like computer code, right? When you got a code and you're building a website, I'm totally not a computer person, but I'm going to pretend for a second. When you have that HTML code or whatever it is, and it's like, that's the thing, when you nail it and you can apply it in multiple places, right? It's going to bring the same result every time. And you know how you want to use it, you know why you want to use it, you know what it's going to help you with. That's how archetypal magic works. So when you nail this energy and this expression of Cancer that really, really, really works for you, and we can balance it out with that energy of Capricorn and how that really works for you, and you find this incredible balance between the two, you can replicate that in all of these different aspects of life. So that's where this work just becomes right? Just so incredibly powerful and effective for really allowing us to create what we want in our lives.
Can I elaborate on that analogy? Because when we look at traditional astrology, the way that we look at that, it's, astrology has been around for thousands of years. So what happens is we look at our chart and it's this is the code that you're given. And so you have to understand yourself through that code. And that's fine, and it's a blueprint, it's a template for all the energies that you as an individual have to work with. But we're moving into this new paradigm now. And so we're instead of just looking at your individual code as a person, we're saying, as you learn how to write code or learn how to work with the archetypes, we're going to bust through the matrix, because the new paradigm version of what we're saying, what we're doing here in the Cosmic Conduit, is we're actually looking at all the different archetypes, all the different aspects of this code of who we are. And with that, we're able to rewrite our script, rewrite our reality, and completely change the game. So this is a new area that we're moving into, new paradigm astrology, or because this is not an astrology podcast. This is archetype magic.
Yeah. The movie reference that's popping up, it's kind of a funny one, is do you remember the Lego movie? Did you see that movie way back when?
Yes.
Mm-hmm, and and so then here are these master builders, right? So then you have the workman, the main character Emmett's just his regular little, Lego man, following all the rules, following all the, this is how, following the instructions, right? And then there's these people who've broken out of the matrix. They've broken out and they can make anything out of anything because they understand how to build. They understand those fundamental building blocks that are the Legos, right? They understand how to move beyond the instruction, beyond what was given, and create something incredible. And that's really
totally new.
Yeah.
Something outside the box. Yeah, when I saw that movie, I was like, this movie is about the new paradigm.
Right? Totally. Okay, cool. So let's move on. And so Cancer, what is this energy about? So we went in depth in our last episode. So how is this Cancer energy showing up for you, Vanessa? So we've been in it for a little while. Like where is this sustainable fulfillment coming through for you, and just how's it showing up?
Well, I've been having a lot of conversations about getting my needs met, like my emotional needs met, and that's kind of come up in a lot of different ways, like in my relationship and in my healing practice, and like the way I'm designing my life. It's it's continually I'm being shown a lot of opportunities to redefine and to really take a look at how I can have my own needs met. Um, and I think that's just really been highlighted like over and over again. So it's just funny how that works in our lives, how like these energies show up and we're in that soup all the time.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, for me, it's so huge theme. That's part of why I'm so excited about this axis in general, because I just feel like it is like it's the one for me right now. Um, and so what's really been showing up for me in Cancer, so is how to receive from myself, right? So how to be able to meet my own needs, like we were talking about before, but with a even dialing it in a little bit further and a little bit deeper, which is really being honest with myself about what my real needs are, and understanding that sometimes I end up in this kind of sneaky little dance that I do in my relationships where I'm like, oh, I don't really need that. Or like, oh no, my needs are like this. And oh, look, I'm sort of like designing my needs to fit the relationship, whatever it might be. And, I'm a Libra, I'm very relationally oriented. And so it's kind of sneaky. So, and I'll be like, oh no, this is truly my needs. When I really sit with it and kind of examine it a little bit deeper, it's like, actually, no, if I'm being totally honest and totally authentic, my needs are a little bit something different, and it might put somebody else off. It might be inconvenient for somebody else, or it might be something that rubs them the wrong way. But I'm trying to convince everybody that, oh no, this is my needs, and look at how good I'm doing at getting my needs met. But then really, when I sink into that sense of, is this sustainable, and is it really fulfilling the truth of what I'm calling for at that soul level? And that's where it kind of goes like, meh. So I'm excited to look at, how Capricorn can really help balance this piece out. So yeah, that's what I
Well,
got.
I know you pretty well, and I think we're similar in that way because you're Libra sun and I have moon in Libra, and I can relate to that as well. It's like kind of like contorting my needs and go, oh, I don't really need that. And that really, you talked about like telling yourself the truth and being honest with yourself, because if you dig deeper into that, are you finding that's coming from some kind of fear?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like it's like a false sustainability, right? And so that's kind of, we touched on this a little bit in the last episode, but it's really kind of, when you go down a couple of layers, it really underneath, I think it's a fear of abandonment, right? It's a fear of like the people that I'm working with are going to decide they don't want to work with me, colleagues or clients or whatever, right? So I have to like, take care of their needs, but like make sure my needs match what they've got going on. So there is this contortioning. But what happens then is it throws off the flow. So the flow can't happen. That infinity loop that we were talking about before, that's ultimately what we're about, is we want to be able to receive in a way that's balanced with how we're giving. And that's where we have true thriving, true abundance, all comes from that very, very, very basic principle. And so, but if I'm contorting myself to be like, oh no, really, these are my needs, yeah, like then the flow can't come in through there. And ultimately, what that leads to is something I'm really trying hard to protect against, which is burnout, right? And so, you and I've had this conversation a lot, and how easy it is, so easy, because of this false notion of where that sustainability really comes from, and thinking like, oh, okay, as long as I'm, if I'm trying to control it, right? Which is essentially what that is. It's trying to control the needs and that interaction. and trying to create false sustainability from that place of fear.
Right, right. And I can totally relate to that too, because for me, it's more like, like a fear of rejection. Like if I have needs, or then I'm too much, and I'm a burden, etc. And then really that shuts me off from receiving. So, as we're talking about this, it's really about like learning to meet your own needs and take responsibility. As we said in the last episode, take responsibility for your own needs, and then to be able to receive from yourself, is that's what you were saying earlier.
Yes.
Really
And
powerful.
and taking it even a little bit further, and like, I think we touched on it before a bit, is like there's an art to it, right? And like mastering the art of self nourishment, self-serving, being able to receive from yourself, being the one. So when you say take responsibility, that always feels a little bit like responsibility, it's the R word. but
Mhm.
but to kind of hone in on the fact that it is an art form, and in Cancer, we're working with a lot of feminine energy, we're working with an intuitive approach, and really honoring that side of it is like trusting that intuitive sense of like, am I nourished? Is that mystery of getting those needs met, is it happening? Is it resonating on that higher frequency that's saying, yes, this is the right thing to be doing here? And that it's not a logical thing. It's not going to come through the brain or the mind. It's going to come through the body and the heart and the intuition and the soul.
Mm. Yeah, I'm like, as we're talking about this, I'm seeing like all of these ways that, we block the flow, like with the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, or, contorting, or, doing the emotional gymnastics to meet someone else's needs. And at the same time, like denying or not being aware of your own needs. So like when we clear that up and we start to actually take responsibility, we take our ownership of awareness of what our needs are emotionally, doing that to some extent for ourselves, then we're creating a more balanced flow. And like what this is really about is creating a flow of masculine and feminine. Like as we're moving into the new paradigm, like this is kind of meta, but like we're moving into a place where we want to see a balance between masculine and feminine, like that infinity loop of giving and receiving, and being receptive, and then also like putting out something into the world. And so as we find that balance within ourselves, like that's where the magic is.
Absolutely. And so this kind of takes us into then what are we really trying to counteract here? So when we look at how Cancer and Capricorn interact with one another, when we're in the sign of Cancer, we're focused here. It's like, what can we draw from Capricorn to help support where Cancer might get a little bit off, right? And so really what I love in the themes that we've already touched in is this piece about fear and kind of, building or using one's energy to create something out of fear, right? So I need to create these relationships or create this structure or create these protective mechanisms out of fear. And when you do that, it creates barriers because the fear is about keeping things out. Well, how in the world are you going to flow if you've got all these like protective barriers in place, right? It's going to stop that flow coming back in. So this is where we want to help Cancer, move kind of out of that focus on the inner, the down, the like, I need to hunker in, right? Like the visual I keep seeing is like building like a bomb shelter, like a bunker, right? Like, okay, here's the shell, we're going to hunker in, everybody. And like bringing all the people, all the people in the community, the family, the whatever, we got to protect everybody and keep everybody in and safe. And where's the flow in that?
Right. Well, yeah. So let's like go back to the essence and the archetype of what we're looking at here with Cancer. It's the crab. So the tendency and the danger here, like you said, would be to just like create something protective and to be kind of like a hermit crab. That shell is only there to protect what the sensitive, gooey, nature and on the inside. And then like what else do you have to give besides, protecting yourself, and then like being able to meet the needs of the people around you. But we're here for so much more than that. We're here to actually like have an impact in the world, like, make a bigger impact than just our immediate circle of people.
Yes, and one thing we didn't tease out too much in the last episode, but that the creative nature of Cancer too, right? Cancer's mother energy. It's that shell also represents the womb, so it's also a place from which creation can come. And so if we're seeing it as only the place to like draw into and not something to be able to move out from, we'll miss that that creative capacity that comes from Cancer too.
Yeah, I think also just, along with that analogy of the womb and the creative capacity, it's like there's this sense of building, like you're building the shell, you're building the home. Like the Cancerian nature is to like really build and beautify and create comfort in this area, right? And so, what we can gain from Capricorn is like also like this dance of Capricorn is so Capricorn's the goat, and it's also an earth, so it's an earth sign. So if you think about a goat, like it's on a mountain, it wants to climb higher and higher, and so it's about building something from the ground up to something big, something successful, something impactful based on purpose, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, so that Capricorn, so in the series of earth signs, it's the highest arc of earth, right? So we have Taurus, and then we have Virgo, and then we have Capricorn. So Capricorn, each of the signs in the elements has that sort of, first level, second level, third level. So Capricorn is the highest level of earth expression. And so it is about building from a higher purpose. So it's achievement oriented. It's making things happen out in the world for the greater good. Whereas Taurus, may be much more focused on the physical from the place of like my own personal comfort and and physical well-being. Capricorn is way more considering like, okay, how do we take care of the whole, the whole community, the much bigger picture. And so there's that, that reflection of Cancer really wanting to take care of its people too, right? But Capricorn's gonna take that viewpoint and expand it significantly, like you said, from the vantage point of the top of the mountain where the mountain goat climbs to.
Right, the crab is kind of crawling around in the rocks and the mud and the sand at the bottom of the ocean, and the Capricorn goat's like, "Hey, look at what else you can build." Because Cancer is there, like building my own little protective world that feels comfortable to me, and so like that's where we can really see this dance of like, okay, there's a whole spectrum, and as we're moving through these different archetypes and the axis of the archetype, we're seeing like there's a polarity of like one theme, and then the other end of the theme that is like much bigger. And also as we've moved in through the first four signs of the zodiac, those are more like self-oriented, self-centered. It's like about getting to know who I am in the physical reality, like what do I need, and like all of these things, like what is me, what are my emotional needs for Cancer. So then moving beyond that, because we can get stuck in the fear or the attachment or the being protective, being a hermit crab.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's a question for you, Vanessa. So, I shared my example of Cancer and the energy, where like I feel like I've been contorting myself or doing that kind of not being truly authentic. So where does Capricorn help with that? Like because, for me, so much in the work that I do with clients, I'm teaching classes, I'm giving, individual session work, just a lot of focus on like wanting to really be of service to the people who come to me for, empowerment work, who come for initiation, who come for DNA activations, all these really amazing things that we get to do. So, it seems like there's a lot of achievement energy already in that, but where does Capricorn help with that balance? How does that strike you?
I feel like this is so juicy because I'm actually more on the other Capricorn side of the thing. But, as we're moving into the new paradigm, we really need to learn a new way of working and of being with our work, especially those of us who are purpose driven, service oriented. And, I think for a long time, we've been conditioned to sort of this more masculine way of being in work and being in service, which is go, 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 and just keep producing and power through it. And I think that, like, for me, I've been learning a new way that is more feminine and is more
Yeah.
oriented towards, like, what do I need to be able to serve? Because really, it's not sustainable to keep going at that pace, at that level, at that intensity. I personally have had to um, deal with burnout and deal with, many, many years of going hard all the time and
Right.
building, building, building. And in this last couple of years since the pandemic, I've been reorienting, and sometimes it's challenging to
Mhm.
just sit and be like, today I'm not doing anything and I still have value, even though I'm not producing something.
Right.
So there's a lot in here about
So much.
rewiring the way we see our success and we see our productivity, because we're oriented towards, like, this masculine way of going at it. And so it's something I've been exploring a lot. Like, how does that resonate for you?
Yeah. Well, you know what this brings to mind for me is actually, kind of blows my mind a bit, which is that Capricorn is not just the goat, right? It's actually the sea goat. It actually has a
Right.
tail. So it has
Right.
this whole water element to it, which when you think about like what in the world, like what the heck? What's a sea goat? Like what is that? Like what is that archetype even about, right? But I think it's so, and I was saying as we were, kind of preparing for this conversation, how much this axis is so much like we're looking at two sides of the same challenge point, right? Which is that giving and receiving. And so I love that even embedded in the archetype of Capricorn, which has more of that force side of it, right? It has more of that action oriented, but it's propelled by a tail, by a fish tail through the water. And so it kind of like says to me, like Capricorn understands, like Capricorn gets it. Capricorn knows that it's important to propel in such a way that's going to really bring about those optimized outcomes, that's our new paradigm archetype for Capricorn, is optimizing the outcome. So it's not achievement just for the sake of achievement. It's not, running up to the hill just so I get a flag, right? It's not ego driven. And you've said that before in other, episodes, like when we take out the negative ego from, the energy of the archetype, that's what we want, that new paradigm, that higher arc of the expression to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm not just thinking about this burnout conversation, and it's something in, like, the feminine side of the work that I've explored. And one of my teachers said to me, like, one of the tenets of a new way of working as a feminine being is the more you want to serve, like the higher you
Yes.
want to serve, the more you want to make an impact in the world. You have to equally do that amount of work of self-care and coming back home to yourself for yourself. Because if you don't have that cup full to give, then it's just really not sustainable. Like
Right.
it's like it's so obvious, but we haven't been wired that way. So it's like a
Right.
reorienting of ourselves.
So true. So true. And I think that's why coming into this one, it's so exciting to me because it is the edge of where so many of us are right now. Like how do we break through these challenge points in our lives? And the analogy that keeps coming back for me is that of, coming back to the garden and the tree, the fruit bearing tree, which is that, when you look at the feminine, when you look at Cancer as the mother energy, and it's like, and it moves from the center out, right? So it's like, it's not linear. it's going to move in this circular way. And so if, the mother at the core is nourishing herself and getting what she needs, and then she's able to meet the needs of those around her, or be the center point, then that provides, right? And then that goes out to the next ring, and that goes out to the next ring. It's like that fruit bearing tree, right? Where it's like when the roots are well established, when when the tree is getting all of the nutrients it needs and is able to sustain itself, the amount of fruit it can produce is limitless, right? There's no lack, there's no kink in the in the fuel. When we look at it from a more masculine linear way, you have to keep fueling to keep the one direction going. But when you're coming from this replication outward, it's all about having the correct sustenance from that rooted place, right?
I love that. I'm seeing so much of the divine feminine masculine dance in that whole conversation of what you said too, because Cancer really is it's like the home base, that nourishing place to come back to. And then Capricorn is going out into the world, the masculine energy penetrating the world, creating something, making an impact, and then coming back home to be nourished and recharged and fueled again. So when we do that, there's this beautiful dance, and that can happen inside yourself.
Yes. Well, and it needs to happen inside ourselves, right? And that's really kind of that core lesson, which I think is why this axis feels so really, potent right now. And so, I'm so looking forward to now getting to take all of what we're talking about and all of these amazing principles and concepts and bringing it into the ceremonial side of the work that we do with this archetypal magic. So we have, coming up in a little bit, we're going to be meeting live once again with our Cosmic Conduit community to take these principles of this sustainable fulfillment and looking at what can I do for me to help create that correct expression, that blueprint that resonates for me and can replicate out. So that's what we'll be doing in our self ceremony in conjunction with the Cancer new moon coming up in a couple of weeks.
And it's been a really beautiful experience. Some of our attendees have given us feedback that for them, attending the new moon ceremony has been really an embodied experience, and they've been able to really connect with the energy of the archetype and apply it into their lives. And that's really the kind of space that we are holding for you and intend to hold for you, because all of this work isn't just conceptual. It's not just a mental process. We're sharing this information because it's really helpful for you to have that basis. But really, this is about the magic.
Yeah. And in fact, we can't get to the actual work through the mental. We do the conversations, we tease out the energy to give an understanding, because that opens up those gateways. It means that as that, when we come to the full moon, when we come to the new moon, and that gate of energy opens, then you know how to use it. And that's what we guide you through, is we guide you through how to put that energy to work alongside these concepts that we've given. So the two work in conjunction, but the mental by itself won't do anything, honestly. It's that data for the sake of data. Whereas, coming into the experiential side of it, actually doing the magic, doing the alchemy, and then the way we've got it set up to do it as a community is really amazing, because then we get to, witness one another, we get to share with one another, we get to have that feedback of how we can continue to replicate the application of this archetypal magic in all of these different aspects of life.
And all of this is happening online in our community, the University for the Soul. You can find all the information about how to join us and all the step-by-step process of joining the community. You can find that in the links. And also, just so you know, we also are both spiritual guides and certified life activation practitioners, healers with the Modern Mystery School. So you can also work with us in person. I am based in Hawaii and also work in San Diego, Southern California. So if those are places that you are in or can get to, I'd love to work with you. And Vila, you are in Colorado?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, part of the bigger thrust of, getting to do this cosmic conduit work and really up leveling is that we are excited to get to bring to you the ancient tools and technology through the spiritual tradition of the ancient mystery schools. And so that's what's coming through to this modern, new paradigm moment where we need it more than ever, right? We need these upgrades. And so it's really fun to, bring it full circle in the in-person work as well as the online work, and have an opportunity to, to do what I was describing at the beginning, which is to have those codes and create the life that we want to be living. And honestly, just as we're doing that for ourselves individually, that's how we're going to create the new world that we want to see for everyone, for our children, for our grandchildren, for future generations to come.
Absolutely. And so all of our information about how you can work with us either online or in person, all available and connected to this video.
Yes, so please come join us, join the community, join us online, come to our Cancer self ceremony, and let's get underway. Let's do cool stuff.
All right, thanks for listening.